everyone, welcome to another video on the channel. Today we are wrapping up the month of February in my reading journal, and like last month I am starting at the front of my main journal. If you're new here, I have two journals for 2025. One is this main journal that you're seeing right now, and the second is a reading data journal that should last about 3 years, and it's my first year using this particular journal. I have used this method in the past and I really enjoyed it, so I decided to start a new journal this year. And the current page that we're looking at right now is my Days Red Pixel, which is one of my favorite things to fill in, and also one of the things that I make the most mistakes on. I have put 2 dates on the far right grid in the wrong place, but it's by 1 day, so I've left them. You'll get to see a little bit later on that I put on that far right side in the 2nd and on the 6th when I meant the 3rd and the 7th. So basically that right side is for the days that I finish a book, and you can see the key above that says that one book is this cornflower blue color. So a lot of the times over February I read 1 book per day, and I also finished 1 book per day. There was the same trend happening from January and February where I finished 2 books on one particular day, but otherwise the trending is looking pretty stable so far. No real trends are happening yet because I don't expect them to be at this time of the year. I'm flipping incredibly fast through these first few pages, which are mostly my yearly challenges, and to be honest with you, a lot of them I don't fill in on camera. I fill them off camera. I don't really track them in real time for you all. You just kind of get to see them in the flip throughs. I find that a lot easier. I have actually gone and fixed my book tricks page, which is like a Tetris game. So I'm really happy that that's been fixed, but it wasn't done before I filmed this. We're now in the February pages. This is the readathon that I took part in over February. It's called Romanticathon. I managed to read 4 books in that 1 week of the readathon, but only 3 sort of applied. So that's why you can see on the little collage that I put on there, only 3 books, and yeah, I've got 4 down the bottom. I also wanted to try and rearrange that page, but it had stuck really well at the top, so you could see that I tried to pull it up and then it started ripping the page, so I put it right back down. We have now moved very quickly into the reading log portion of this setup. So like I mentioned, this is my main journal. We're just looking at February really quickly in here. A lot of things have already been filled in. I'm just tidying things up as I go. So this is now at a place where I needed to just finish off my star ratings and put them in. I hadn't yet done that, and then put in the covers for the books read over February and the format stickers as well on this page. And for the majority of February I had a really good time reading. I managed to have 3 5-star reads, which was fantastic considering there was only 28 days in the month, and I felt like I was not reading as often as I had been in January. Like obviously I read almost every single day in February as well, but I felt like I read more in January for longer periods, whereas I was just mostly reading 1 book a day instead of like 2 or 3. This month I think I had a good time, and it does show that I had a higher average overall for the 9 books read as opposed to 13 in January. So take with that what you will. I enjoyed quite a few books. First Time Caller, 2 Twisted Crowns, and Our Infinite Fates were my 3 5-star reads, and I loved them all so much. It was very difficult for me to choose between the 3 of them what would be the top read of the month, but it ended up being 2 Twisted Crowns. I am obsessed with the Shepherd King duology, and anything Rachel Gillig writes, I most likely will buy without question. I'm very excited for her upcoming release later this year as well, The Night and the Moth, I think it's called. So yeah, very excited to dive back into her amazing writing. And yeah, those other 2 books, absolutely phenomenal. I also really enjoyed Wooing the Witch Queen by Stephanie Burgess and The Rebel Witch by Kristin Ciccarelli. Again, both amazing books. I did end up giving them 4.5 stars, but they were just so amazing, and I keep thinking about them still to this day. Unfortunately, I did have a few 3 stars and a 3.5, but that's just general for me. Like, I'm not going to always be reading amazing 4-star and above reads, especially since I am an ARC reader. So now that we're finished with the main journal, we've flipped into my reading journal. Sorry, my reading data journal, and this is my series tracker in the start of the book. This is the global pages. This will last me longer than 2025, and I'm just adding in those new series that I've started in February, as well as I think there's 2 series that I ended up wrapping up in February. So I'm just going to add them on really quickly on the side here, and then I'm going to wrap up those other 2 series, which are the Shepherd King duology and the Crimson Moth duology. And it was really fun because they were both side by side. So I didn't have to stress about putting them in 2 different spots. It was very it was satisfying to be able to fill in this giant block of red and say that these 2 series are now finished. And that is the global portion of my journal done, because I haven't yet put in my own TBR yet. I know it's March and I'm very behind. This is now the 2025 portion of the reading data journal. This is where all the stats, the trackers are. And this first page is a visual. It's the year of a glance. And last time I didn't show writing in the titles or doing the little circles for the colouring. Decided to leave it in this time around since I only have 9 reads. And this is how it gets set up. So how this page works is each book is assigned a little circle, and I color that in with the star rating, which you can see is color coded in the section beside it for January. And then on the day that I finish that read, I color it in with the star rating. So 5 stars is pink, and the first time color was a 5-star read, and I finished it on the 3rd. You get that kind of thing. So I really like this. It's a very quick way of seeing what you've read and the rating. Obviously, I know the key very well now, and it will be very foreign to people who don't know the key for the star ratings, especially since I've used these same colors in a little bit of a confusing manner with the rest of the trackers, which you'll see in a moment, which I did filling in this time round. Last time they were already filled in. So I will get to that in a moment, but we'll first put down the 2 DNFs that I had this month. The first being Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I know a lot of people like this author. I never have. This was one of the recommended books to me, and unfortunately I couldn't get past 13%. So I've decided I won't be reading any more of her books. And the other was How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams, which was really sad, but I just didn't vibe with it. So this is where I mean that there's the same colors that are going to be used. As you can see, this is the star ratings. Again, a very basic page. It's got the whole key down the bottom there. I'm just coloring in what those books were and making sure that they line up correctly. I also had this really handy little picture off to the side with all the books, so I could just instantly start filling it in. As you can see, I've put it onto the page so you can see it. This is the books by genres page. Same colors, but now I have to figure out which one's which. And I did almost make a mistake here and make this a cozy fantasy. It is, but it's more of a romantasy. So I changed the color very quickly. And you get the idea that these colors just sort of roll over, because I wanted to have a cohesive theme in colors. But I think maybe I should have done the star ratings, just one color set, and then had a different set for the rest of these other trackers. It's working for me, but it is a little bit confusing. And I have to keep checking the key, which is really great that it's there and you guys can see it on screen as well, although it is quite small. And I did have to put my head in the way to see which color audiobook was, because I couldn't tell if it was the pink or the red. There are 2 colors in my key that people have mentioned to me look too identical, and I admit perhaps I should have done a little bit of a different coloring, but in person I can tell the difference between the red and the pink. They are close though, but hopefully I won't have too many issues with that myself, since I can tell the difference and it is my journal. Final tracker is now done, and then we're going to move over into the next page, which I haven't yet been able to tick anything off. Again, very early days. I do think I need to change one rule, which was to keep my neck gully above 93%, and I haven't yet done it this year. Being unrealistic, I really need to have that set at 90, so I'm just going to put a 0 there instead, and I think that would be a much more achievable goal. I think being able to realistically alter these so early into the year makes more sense than trying to achieve something that's a little bit far-fetched. It would be nice to have my net galley percentage above 93, but 90 is good enough. So this is the Stats Omnibus, one of my favorite pages in this book and something I haven't done before. It's so helpful to quickly have a look at, and a lot of people are really liking this one. So I'm glad that this page works well for people viewing it as well as me. And I do appreciate this little table. I can't believe it's taken me this long in reading journal setups to even come up with one. Now here is where I had a little bit of a think, because in February I did read technically 2 library books, but one I owned. I just listened to the audiobook through Libby, and so I just put down one because I wasn't going to be paying for another book when I already owned it. So I just put down the one, then I had to figure out how much that was, and I hadn't set up for this before filming, so that's why it took me a little bit longer. Like I mentioned, here's the eARC station with that percentage for net galley on the side here, and I'm on 90% at the moment for February. I think it's actually slightly higher now that I've finished a couple more arcs off, but then I've had a few more come in, so I'm kind of avoiding my percentage right now. And then on this other table here is where I'm tracking what I'm reading, how many I receive per month for the arcs, and how many are in wherever places that I managed to get them from. Now I did make a mistake because it says eARC, and I was very fortunate this month to get a publisher ARC, a physical copy. Don't think that's going to happen very often, so I'll leave it at eARC for now, but I did put that information down. Here is where I make another mistake, but I find a way through it very quickly. I was telling myself, don't forget the R, don't forget the R, and I forgot the A instead. So February was spelt wrong, and then I just decided that I would just cut it and stick it together again. So here I am putting it in the correct order. Looks a bit weird right now, but I will fix that in a moment and put that down as the title. And this is my stats portion, where I'm now just doing like an overview for each month on one page. So last year, and for the last few years actually, I've done a stats overhaul on a couple of pages, and I decided that since I have all these trackers this year, it's kind of repetitive information, and while some of the information that I do put on this page is repetitive from the omnibus, I do find it handy to have it all on its one page as well. So that is why I went ahead with continuing these stats pages, and I plan to have all 12 months in a row and then have my quarterly stat pages afterwards. I would really like to do the quarterly stats next, but that would require breaking up the flow, and so I'm going to have to do all 12 pages and then leave a gap, and then hopefully not make any mistakes and do the quarterly page for Q1 next, which is really frightening to me that we're already looking at filling in stuff for Q1. I can't believe that we're this far into the year already, that March is almost out the door, and yeah, it's kind of frightening to me to be even considering having to do those extra pages and doing a flip through of everything. And whilst I really enjoy doing the quarterly flip throughs, setting up for them can sometimes be a bit of a task. So I can't believe we're already there. But I do really appreciate how this page came together, and I'm really enjoying my reading data journal. This is the journal that I set up with you guys on camera last year in a series. And then I unfortunately had to cut it short and didn't get to finish it because of personal reasons with my family. But I'm really happy seeing these pages come together. I've had a lot of comments from people saying, I'm really happy to see you using this journal now that we've seen it being put together. So it just gives me the warm fuzzies when we are in this journal. And, you know, I started out when I was setting this up. It was my first time in a square, and I started out like, oh, I don't really like this size. I'm actually considering next year for my main 2026 journal to have a square instead of the B5. I think it will go really well with my theme for next year. Yes, I already have one. It was the theme that was supposed to be this year before I got my spell book and changed everything around. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to a different size. I think I'm done with the B5s for now, and I want to explore this size a little bit more. But that's like a long way away. Though in saying that, considering we're already looking at quarter 1 and I'm already like, how are we this far into the year? Planning ahead isn't a bad thing. So this page is sort of just basic. I don't have really any decoration aside from the collage of the covers, and I'm just going to be putting down a whole bunch of stats on this page that I can look back at. It's nothing aesthetic, it's just for me to use for whatever I need that information for. Of course, I will try to take photos of these and share it with everyone. I think that a lot of people get lost in the fact that journaling is quite a functional habit as opposed to an aesthetic one. And I too love when it's all aesthetic and pretty, but stat tracking and keeping track of things in life in general is not aesthetic. We can make it as aesthetic as possible, but in this situation, I think having the information is more of a preference than having the page look adorable and colourful and cluttered with decorations. So in this instance, I'm not prepared to put in a lot of effort to make it look anything other than cohesive. So in this portion here, I have added in a new thing to track because I am trying to incorporate threads into my social media practice. I find it really awkward. I haven't used something like this, like X. I used to use Twitter years ago and I haven't used it in a long time. I haven't needed it to. So it is a bit foreign to me. I do like some of the features of threads though, so I'm hopeful that tracking things there and sharing thoughts there is a good place for me to share more of my journaling and more of my reading habits and myself. So I decided that I would be tracking how many threads that I post myself, not repost or quote to. And then the last few sections are just very obvious things. So this one is the acquired section. I'm just tracking down where I get the books that I've read from. And I put these little stars because, like I mentioned, I might own the book and then read it elsewhere. And I obviously did a mixed read of Two Twisted Crowns. So I owned the book, but I didn't own the audiobook. I got that from Spotify. So that's why I've tracked it twice. And this last section is pacing. And all the books were medium paced, which seems to be a trend for me. I don't really like slow books and hardly anything's ever fast paced for me. So yeah, I am thinking about filling in that final little gap there with the top 3 reads of the month, which were those 3 5-star reads that I mentioned before. I think that would fill in that little gap of white there, but otherwise this page is done. And we are now at the point for 2 flip throughs. This first flip through will be of this reading data journal. I should have flipped through the other one earlier, but I decided to do it all at the end. So this is what it's looking like now with the extra information added to the reading data journal in the 2025 section. And yeah, it's looking really cute. I'm happy with the color scheme and how most of these trackers are working. Like I mentioned, I will be just making slight alterations to a couple of things. And then this is the flip through for February's portion of the journal. So here it all is. I admit that I don't like the colors that I used for the monthly view, but that's neither here or there. It's very bright compared to the jewel tones that I was going for. It doesn't match. But otherwise, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing this being wrapped up, and I'll be back with a new video sometime very soon. Bye everyone.